Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and boy, do we have a doozy for you guys today. This one, it's as the title says, it's greed, and this is about Ed
Well,
Allred.
it's about kind of like we'll introduce it with the horse racing industry in general, and then we will talk about Ed Allred, who has been now kind of being talked about as being like America's, I think they call it like the American Holocaust. You know, he was like basically like he was talking about genocide. He aborted himself. He himself, like his organizations aborted over 250,000 babies
Yes,
in his career.
I know, and it's like we've gone over that, and it's just absolutely ridiculous to think about. I mean, the more that you think about it, it's like the more you have to decide, but like when you truly think about it, you have to decide with the side of life. I mean, these are real babies, and they'll tell you, well, they don't feel pain, until a certain point.
They still feel stress.
And from what we have seen, I mean, we watched that one movie,
Right.
and they move and try to get away.
Yeah, there's still fear
from the procedures.
Right. So I mean, how do they? I mean, if it even if it is just them being afraid and feeling the mother's tension and everything, that's still a form of mental physical distress.
Yes,
you know,
it is.
And that is pain.
They know something's going on.
So sure, you might not remember it, but I have some stats about him and everything sets ago.
And I mean, there was the chemical one.
Yeah, we'll get into that. Let's start off with greed. Let's start off with the subject of greed, and start off with the horse racing in general. So I trained horses for Los Alamitos between 2003 and 2009. That was about the span of my career. I was training in for cow tracks and stuff, and just for fun before that and a little bit after that, but those were the main years that I was there. And I can say with pretty much full certainty that, yeah, I mean, the more that this went on, it wasn't an honorable sport. It was all about money. I met horses that were great horses, and then I would come back the next day, and they would either be sold off or dead, claimed out.
Yeah.
Watch claim after claim after claim, watching this $20,000 horse dwindle down to like a $300 claim, and then be killed for the insurance.
Well, I was going to say, because they all have insurance out on them.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, that horse isn't worth it anymore. Let's kill it.
Yeah, so if they're not placing top 3 consistently, then they'll just claim them out, and then somebody will kill them for insurance.
Exactly.
You know. They would administer these steroids that would just send them into a frenzy, just so that they could beef them up and make them.
Oh, yeah,
We're talking
of course.
2-year-olds that had more body mass than our full-grown horses that we have now. And
Yes.
Freaking ridiculous. And of course, this was quarter horse racing, so we're not talking about like huge amounts of money. But this guy here, he himself made over $20 million in quarter horse racing alone. That's just the earnings.
Yeah.
That's not his sales. That's not the money that he gets from consignment of the foals that he has from the mares, or any of that. It's just the earnings.
That is crazy.
Anytime his horse is placed, that's ridiculous.
It is.
We have a long-standing history of thinking that like the horse racing industry is cruel. It's cruel in many different ways than people think about.
Yes.
They always focus on like how the horses are forced to run and how they hurt themselves and all that. Well, that's just like a small part of it. They abuse the jockeys. They put their bodies through hell. Every single jockey that I knew had OxyContin down there, freely available. They would take the horses' medications. They throw up every single night until their teeth are like rotted out of their head because of the acid.
And they have to make sure to make that weight. So they have to stay a certain weight,
and there is like the jockeys club and everything, where they're supposed to provide insurance for injuries, and that's supposed to cover up to $500,000, and that seems like a lot, but so many of them have had they typically fall into the clavicle area, and then they're screwed for the rest of their life, and that $500,000 isn't going to cover you for more than 10 years of long-term care. There's a guy that's in Rio de Sodans that's just owned by this fellow who is like paralyzed. I knew she
Yes.
I didn't like her, but she busted her butt and she worked so hard to impress these owners and trainers and everything. And she was up and coming when I left. And then a few years later, not 5 years later, I looked her up because they said, oh, former Los Alamitos jockey looking for a donation, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked, it was her, and she was homeless. And she was like, she looked drug-addled, like you wouldn't believe. Like,
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
horrible. So they don't just use the horses, they use the people. And that's just the jockeys. We're not talking about the, what do you call it, like the backstretch workers, the groomers, the hot
Yes.
walkers, the exercise riders. All of those people get very small amount of money for the stuff that
Yeah.
they go through. And like me, I even got my face bashed in, and there's like nothing
Yeah, I remember that.
to
That
do
was
about that. I mean, there's no insurance to cover that or anything. Although California requires workman's compensation insurance for up to like, what was it, 5 people, I think at the time.
Yeah,
Maybe it was 10, 5 or 10.
5, I think, because you had to try to get it.
Yeah, and when we were only 2, you know, so it was like, but I had to get the 5. But it doesn't cover anything. I never even put anything in.
I know.
Because you're not going to get anywhere with that, and then you lose out because they don't hire you to do anything else. They don't want you around anymore.
Exactly.
So you're scared to like say anything. So yeah, the whole thing, and then all those people, all the fancier trainers, and all the owners and everything, they're making money hand over fist, eating prime rib every night.
See, that's ridiculous.
Completely detached from the whole process.
Instead of the whole process, like the jockey, the trainer, the owner, the groomer, everybody getting together and helping each other every step of the way.
I worked for a
You have the tiers. You know, it's the
Yeah.
different tiers
Yeah,
of
and there's a big ass gap in between. Excuse me, language, but there's a big gap in between where we were as workers and
Yes.
where they were as owners. And the trainers, if you're a good enough trainer, you're kind of in between because usually you own horses too. Like Tom Basley, he was really cool.
He
You know,
was. We
really,
both
really
met
neat.
him.
Yeah, he was a super good advocate for that, and he was really sweet, and he always remembered.
Yeah.
And when we had a fire here, his wife said, you know, bring your horses down. We can keep them down here if you need to, if it's long term. Like when
Yep.
we had the well god, I think.
Yeah.
It wasn't the fire.
Oh, there was a fire too that he
That's
offered.
right. And then she
Or
also
the well too.
Right, and then she also offered to take me down to the opening day of Del Mar
Yeah.
down there, just to go, you know. So they were really neat. But another fellow like Tom Jones, he was a trainer, but he's also an owner, so we kind of straddled that line.
Yes.
And he, quote unquote, trained over 60 horses here in California alone. And you know,
Wow.
damn well you can't.
No.
Because you get put the time into them.
No, it's the other people under you.
Yeah, so I was gonna
and
say,
then you
so-
still get the credit.
So I was gonna say, so you know what he did? He would hire people like me, who would bust their bodies and sacrifice their time, while he gets all the credit and makes all the money. So the
And that's
whole,
ridiculous.
The whole thing is just like a pyramid scheme, you know, and they
Yeah.
build it on the backs of hardworking individuals. A lot of the guys down there are migrant workers. They're not, you know,
Yeah.
they don't have, you know, documentation, and so they're like abused.
Yeah, because they're afraid to say stuff. Exactly. Hey, Sancho.
Hey Zansha, we're talking about greed today. That's the subject, greed.
Yes, it is.
And so it's like we know about horse racing industry, and then this is going to go into something else where greed takes a very dark turn for people.
Yes, it's just not.
So the main proprietor of this establishment was named Ed Allred, and when I was working there, I never knew how he made his money before he got there.
Yeah, I
I
know.
always thought that he came from a line of like horse people. He advocated for that. I never knew where his money came from.
Because he never really said.
No. And so we'll get into that. But yeah, he himself even still currently has 500 horses in
That
California
is ridiculous, man.
alone. And you'll see his consignments here, his early consignments. And then we'll talk about how we got to that point. And the greed just took a really dark turn, and he is not the person that I thought he was.
Yeah. There's no way to be
No,
with that.
no.
Alright. ready to move on to
Yeah,
the
we're
first.
ready. We're ready.
Ed Allred's Rolling A Ranch, dedicated to the breeding of world-class quarter horses. Ed Allred has another great consignment of yearlings at the Los Alamitos Equine Sale, September 30th and October 1st, featuring siblings to the following major graded stakes winners. Let's Lead, winner of the Grade 1 Ruidoso Futurity. Sicario V, winner of the Grade 1 Rainbow Derby. Future Version, winner of the Governor's Cup Derby. And Circle City, a multiple Grade 1 winner. Top yearlings from Ed Allred's Rolling A Ranch at the Los Alamitos Equine Sale.
Who is Dr. Edward Allred? Is this man America's?
Alright, so now we're getting into all about Allred, and if you're reading the title of it, you'll see Dr. Edward Allred, 250,000 abortions. So,
And this is how he made his money.
yeah, this is how he got started with the racing,
Yeah.
as you found out later on.
Yeah, I did not find this out until pretty much this year. So, you know, like all of this stuff, I mean, I knew that he obviously had the clinic because I went to
Yes.
one. But I didn't know the extent of it. At the time, I just thought, oh, good, he's helping women out. You know, but this is how he made his money, and this is where greed will take people.
Oh yeah, it will.
And not only is this guy greedy, but he was a borderline Nazi. From the stuff that he says, he talks about the
Yeah,
purity.
I agree. What
of
you have
the-
showed me.
Yeah, of the white race and all that. So this is getting into this guy. This guy's supposed to be a religious fellow. He is supposed to be a 7-day Adventist.
Yeah.
And the Adventists are supposed to not associate with gambling, and they're not supposed to associate with murder or abortions. And he does both, and they still accept money from him.
Yep.
And it's even written in their books that they're not supposed to even accept anything from that the money has to be clean. And yet you'll see that he's just like donated all this money to these churches, and they have these great establishments in his name.
Well, of course, because you know you donate money and you can get free pass for anything.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Most prolific serial killer. Is it true that Allred specifically targeted Hispanic and black children for violence? This movie right here claims that notorious abortionist Dr. Gosnell is the biggest serial killer. According to the BBC, Philadelphia's abortion monster has killed over 16,000 little boys or girls and was later convicted of several counts of murder and is serving a life sentence in prison. But could this claim as the biggest serial killer be challenged? I have mentioned Allred in several of my other videos, but in this video, focus specifically on Dr. Allred. On April 6, 1977, Los Angeles, California, a young 17-year-old went to an abortion clinic to have an abortion. It failed. On September 9, 2015, Gianna Jessen testified right here before a House Judiciary Committee about the significance of that failed abortion. Let's hear the testimony from Gianna in her own words.
My biological mother was 7.5 months pregnant when she went to a Planned Parenthood and was advised, and they advised her to have a late-term saline abortion. This method of abortion burns the baby inside and out, blinding and suffocating the child.
Okay, I didn't catch that before, but she doesn't mean family. She means the Family Planning Associates. It wasn't Planned Parenthood. He wasn't working for Planned Parenthood.
No, he wasn't.
He was actually their biggest contender.
Yes.
But it's FPA's, Family Planning Associates. And it's still that. You know, now they just added the word
Yeah.
women's health at the end.
And he just doesn't own it anymore.
He doesn't own it anymore. He's actually even left, from what I understand, he's even left California. But he just got married
In California, at the
at
Vessels Club.
the Vessels Club. And it's like, so he's still obviously very involved here.
Yes,
And
very much.
when I started looking, it's like his name is all over everything there. And he just kind of like grandfathers himself into these establishments.
That is
and
ridiculous.
pays a bunch of money for a long time. Continue.
Yeah.
But yeah, FPA.
Who was then born dead, usually within 24 hours, and there should be a photo there. Yes, this is what I survived.
Okay, sorry.
Instead of
I
dying,
won't go into details, but the saline abortion
God.
was something that he himself started, you know, Edward Allred started to come up with on his own. And what he would do is he'd replace the amniotic fluid
Yes.
in the baby's, you know, sac, and he'd replace that with saline, like salt water,
And it burns them.
and chokes them. And it takes about 90 minutes for the baby to die. and then it will be spontaneously aborted by the mother, naturally.
And that's ridiculous. And I mean, not always though.
No, so this is the case. It was like, at 7 months, she was clamoring to get out, and she forced her way out.
And she made it.
And he's the damn doctor.
Yeah, okay, ladies and gentlemen, he is the delivery doctor's name on her birth certificate.
Yeah, the abortionist.
I mean, that is so screwed up.
At the family planning.
But it's a big middle finger to him, too, because it means that he didn't get his job done.
Yeah, exactly. Life will find a way. I like the basic orange and black pico tea.
I like green tea.
Yeah, and I like herbal teas.
Yeah.
We drink lots of different teas.
Yeah, we do.
Yep, and I'm glad that you're here.
Always a pleasure having you, Sancho.
Alright, let's go.
After 18 hours of being burned in my mother's womb, I was delivered alive in an abortion clinic in Los Angeles on April the 6th, 1977. My medical records state, born alive during saline abortion, 6 a.m. Ha! Victory. Thankfully, the abortionist was not at work yet. Had he been there, he would have ended my life with strangulation, suffocation, or leaving me there to die. Instead, a nurse called an ambulance.
Wow.
Yep.
And I was rushed to a hospital.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, there was a movie that we watched on abortions, which we think everybody should have to see this movie. And I mean, it's doctored a little bit. But I mean, for the most part, you can tell it's true. It's just the way it goes.
It's a read. And it's like, it's a movie. It's not a documentary.
No, it's not a documentary. It's a movie. But you know that it's close to real. The name of the movie is called Unplanned.
And it's about Abby Johnson. It's a true story of Abby Johnson and how she was the director of Planned Parenthood for about 8 years, I think it says.
Yes.
Or 4 years at least. She worked there for 8 years. And she ended up firsthand seeing one of these abortions being done and completely turned herself around.
Yeah, she watched this baby squirm. Okay, because it was the suction method.
Which you will find out was streamlined by this asshole.
Yeah, this guy's who perfected it, and that's why we're talking about him. But the suction method is they go up and they suck out the baby.
Yeah, piece by piece.
Piece by
It
piece.
starts with the leg and then the other leg and piece
I mean,
by piece.
it's terrible. And I mean, if you watch this movie, you will find out just how bad it is. I mean, she ends up watching one, and
yeah, there's complications with one, and the girl bleeds out, and they will not let her call an ambulance.
They're like, you think that we could ever live that down? You think we could ever? We'll get this solved, and we'll get this figured out.
And
we will never call an ambulance.
And they taught her how to lie to patients' families and how to lie to patients, and she was like selling this, and each one of these abortions cost between $400 and $600, at least at the time. Now I'm saying that it's basically starts about $600 and goes up to about $1,200.
Yes, that's about right. That's inflation has increased it.
And they do abortions all the way up to 25 weeks, which can cost about $3,000 and a 2-night stay in the hospital.
And that just gets even worse, ladies and gentlemen. When you go into those procedures, it's downright cruel.
Yeah. So it's definitely changed my perspective of things a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, watching it, it just heats you up, and it's like, and I'm not saying that all abortions are wrong. There are certain circumstances that it's needed and forced. As far as, if it's going to kill the mother, if the baby's, really screwed up, if there's just something that's not going to go right and that's going to cause issues.
Right.
I get it.
Right. But they say that's only, they always fall back on the rape thing and the medical necessity. And if that's true about the medical necessity, it's a whole different thing. But they say that's only 4%, I think, of the abortions. Yeah. The rest of them is just basically convenience.
Well, also, like, the convenience, because there's one that, when you had one done...
It's so easy, just...
And the woman, it was a black woman, correct? Black young girl?
Yes, yeah. Well, she wasn't young anymore. She was probably like 27 at the time.
Okay, 27 at the time, and then she had, she'd been laying there, and she's like, "Oh, you'll be okay." She's like, "This is my like 5th one or something."
Yeah, she'd had multiple. I think she said it was. I don't know. She was either 5 or 8. There was another girl that had her first one at 11.
Yeah.
And she might have even been the same one. But oh, see, we're on the same wavelength, you know.
Yes.
Go ahead, and I'm gonna look at the statistics.
Yes.
Doctors did not expect me to live. I did.
The doctor who tried to kill Gianna was Dr. Edward Allred. At one time, Dr. Allred owned the largest chain of abortion clinics in California, which were performing 60,000 abortions every year. In an interview published here in the San Diego Union, Dr. Allred boasted he was personally responsible for over 250,000 abortions. Dr. Allred stated, "We're experts in abortion. We've done it hundreds of thousands of times, and our places function just like we want them to." He stated that he was very interested in aborting babies of certain races, especially Hispanic and blacks. Population control is too important to be stopped by some pro-life types. Take the new influx of Hispanic immigrants, their lack of respect of democracy.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this guy wants to be God. He wants to control what the human race has.
Yep.
This is sick. This is a person sick in the head.
Yeah, he has some very Nazi-like things to say.
Yeah, very Nazi.
And I don't know if it's going to cover it here, but he said that his goal was to minimize the contact between the patient and the doctor, and to maximize the efficiency of the process,
Yes.
and to get them out within 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's it. Meaning, and there's been a lot of reviews of these women not talking to the doctor. They're like, they had questions, but the doctor would just be out and gone, and that's it.
Yeah.
These women are being traumatized, and these doctors just want to act like it's nothing. Just want to act like, well, it's my job, I gotta get this done, and then boom, I'm out of there,
And
bye.
like I said, they're making, say on average, $800 a
Yeah.
pop.
That's all it is to them.
Yeah, it is.
It's
literally
money.
And he talked about doing 100 in one day. And so it's like
Yes.
$8,000.
Yeah.
In one day, just for
Crazy.
just one day.
Yeah.
And that was then, and this is now, and that was just one clinic. And he ended up owning like 23 clinics here, and all of that greed, it just poisons the whole everything that he's touched. And it's like, I feel so cheated for working for him.
I know.
And then ending up on his table anyway.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Go ahead.
And social order is frightening. I hope I can do something to stem that tide. I'd set up a clinic in Mexico for free if I could. Maybe Mexico would help. And when a sullen black woman can decide to have a baby and get on welfare and become a burden to all of us, it's time to stop. In parts of South LA, having babies for welfare is the only industry that people have to help achieve his goals. Allred's clinics.
Which abortion video? The one that we're watching, or the one that we talked about? It's called Unplanned. The one that the actual movie is called Unplanned, and like we said, it is a movie. It's based on a true story.
Yeah, about it is Unplanned.
Oh, the one that we were watching.
Oh yeah, this is from a 7-day Adventist place, and apparently since he's part of their organization, this guy's kind of like auditing him and talking about like how corrupt he is and everything. So it's just kind of leading up to how this ties in with greed, money, and
Yes.
and the whole dark side of it.
And this is all Dr. Allred, Edward Allred. My nephew here used to work for him. He owned Los Alamitos racetrack, horse racing. So, he did that, and a lot of people didn't know that he owned abortion clinics too and everything until, nephew did not either.
No.
Until she ended up having an abortion and looking up and realizing it was his clinic that she was at.
Yeah, when I was working at the racetrack, he had a nickname called Fast Eddie. And I just assumed it was because he was a breeder of quarter horse racehorses. But he came with that name because he perfected the suction method and could get people in and out within 5 minutes. Therefore,
So he made an assembly line
yes,
of
exactly
abortions.
right. When I wrote down what I was going to write down before I found this, I said I felt like when I was there, it was like a well-oiled machine. Just one person to the next, smiling, reassuring, it's okay, you're doing the right thing, this is the right decision, to the next room, to the next room, to the next room, until it was done, and then I was out.
And you said that once you're in those rooms,
You're not getting out.
you're not getting out.
You're not getting out.
That abortion is happening.
It is happening.
Even
yeah,
if you're changing your mind.
It's like, I mean, I think you said short of screaming, yelling, throwing stuff, and threatening to light the place
Yes.
on fire, then, yeah, you're not getting out of there. It's like they're very convincing.
Yeah, they are trained to talk you down.
They're liars. You know, they said that there was something medically wrong with my child, and it was a good thing I was there because then now they can take care of it, you know, and then we'd all be safe. And I've heard several women say the same thing. What are the odds
that there's that much wrong with that many?
Yeah, with they said it's such a rarity to have a medical necessity. We all had that. We all had this. We had this traumatic problem. You know, every one of us. You know, I don't know.
And I mean, you saw at the beginning here of the woman who went in for the chemical abortion. And that what they do there is, I'll just recap it, they replace the amniotic fluid with saline, which will burn the baby and suffocate it and kill it so that you can naturally abort it.
It's supposed to be 90 minutes, which is long enough, but this one lady suffered 18 hours.
Yeah, 18 hours.
That's
and
a survivor.
There's one girl that, you know, she's talking about her story now, and she survived it.
And she's got cerebral palsy.
And she was born in his office.
It's so crazy.
In Allred's office.
And so
his name is on her birth certificate.
And this guy, he's been doing this stuff since when abortion was illegal everywhere but here in California. And he talks about how there would be plane loads of people coming to use his services, and they had to use a bus to get them there.
Yeah.
And he says this with great glowing pride. Money he made. And that's what gets me the most. It was like, well, wait a minute, if this is really a service, then why are you charging these people? Why are you making money on this?
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't think they do the saline thing anymore, but they did. Yeah. And it was like, yeah, I'm learning all kinds of stuff.
Oh yeah, we have learned a lot, and it's like just thinking about it with the suction method, as I was saying earlier too, on that video that we watched, the baby was moving around trying to avoid the suction, and they're like, oh, don't worry, the baby can't feel any pain at this age. But in order for the baby to move around and try to avoid the suction, that shows that there's something there. It knows.
Well, it's because they're doing this stuff at like over 12 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, like up until 8 weeks, I still feel that there's kind of a buffer there. You know, like it's still there. I still believe that it's life, but you know, 8 weeks, there's not. I don't know. But beyond that, it's just every day the brain develops 100,000 cells after that point. Every day, every single day, it gets that many more cells in its brain. And then there's such a massive amount of growth that happens between then.
And they'll go up to 25 weeks.
Yeah, and mine was 13. Almost 14.
Yeah.
So almost like where we just were when we saw that ultrasound.
Yeah, we're at 15 now, right?
Yeah.
Got to going on 16.
But they still convinced me that it was a clump of cells and not anything more than that.
Yes.
I mean, and I came from a medical background, and I still, like, fell for their lies, you know? Yeah, I mean, like I said, up to 8 weeks, I believe in, like, using, like, herbals and stuff, you know, and that's, like, a personal thing, and trying to keep, you know, the medical professionals out of it.
Yes.
But anything that starts to go beyond that, it starts to get really, it gets dicey. You know, and I knew it then too, but they, like I said, they still convinced me.
Well, it's like this video Unplanned that we watched. At the end of it, one of the things that started waking this person up was her boss that put her in that position and was like a head for corporate. She came on and she was talking about how yeah, we're opening these state-of-the-art facilities,
Uh-huh.
and we're gonna start doing abortions up to, what was it she said?
I think it was 25 weeks at a time.
Up to like 25 weeks, and she's like, whoa, you know, the main woman that the story's about is like, wait a second, I thought we were here to help the woman, and she questioned her boss. You know, her boss ends up jumping her stuff and saying, you never, undermine me.
And she literally at that point said, this is $1 billion
Industry.
industry that pays for everything that you have in your life. You know, it
Yes.
pays for your car, and it pays for your house, and it pays for your vacations, and it matches your 401k. And that's when, you know, that's the greed.
It is.
They're not doing it to help women or
Yeah.
to help anything. The environment is another thing that they always try to say,
Yeah.
talking about overpopulation. They're not doing it for any of those reasons.
No,
they are
they're not.
doing it only for money, and that is a sin. You know,
It's
so
a big sin.
that's what brings us to this whole thing.
And, you know, that's why the word has to be spread about it more and more. I mean, women need to wake up and realize just what this does.
Yeah.
They need, I mean, honestly, like I said, there's certain circumstances, it's all good, you know, but you still have to realize that you have to pay the piper.
Yep.
It's
Always.
still killing a life.
Always, like they said, you can erase your baby, but you can't erase the memory of your baby,
Yes.
and that is true. You
And
know,
it's still
like-
taking life.
It is, and it's like, shit, I don't know what I was gonna say. I forgot, but yeah,
Yeah.
greed.
Would advertise special discounts on abortions on Spanish TV channels and newspapers, but not in English-speaking media. We hear patients say they feel like they're on an assembly line. We tell them they're right. It is an assembly line. We're trying to be as cost-effective as possible, and speed is important. An assembly line of death. Dr. Edward Allred was a man whose goal was to take the life of as many babies as possible, as fast as possible. He said that blacks need welfare to survive, and he hated Hispanics so much that he offered them discounts on abortion and said he'd like to give abortions to them for free. La Sierra University is a Seventh-day Adventist institution nationally acclaimed for its diverse campus and its service to others. In 2010, La Sierra established a center in the business school to promote financial literacy and entrepreneurship, and they named the center after Dr. Edward Allred. You can go to the homepage here, click on centers, and it even says right here on their website that it's reminding them to make a difference with the resources that God has entrusted to their care. This man who has killed hundreds of thousands of little children is going to be an example to Adventist students forever. Killing children is honored as an example. Ripping babies to pieces for money is called entrepreneurship, and it is inspiring. This is sick. As you see here, the Adventist Review is the flagship journal of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
I mean, what he does is a true definition of a serial killer.
Or like literal genocide.
Yes.
And that's like exactly that. I mean, that's
Okay, genocide more so because they're the ones that want to control the population.
you're right.
And so it's like, you know, by genocide, you're doing it.
Well, I think what I was going to say earlier is like I'm definitely pro-choice, but not in the way that they define it, because like I said, it's like you are free to choose. You can't choose. You're not free from your consequences of those choices.
No, you're not.
But you can choose. But you need to be well informed, and that's the problem. Is these places do not inform you of other options.
No, and that's like
Just that.
when I was talking about it, that's one of the things that Abby, which is the woman that the story's about, is she was getting at. She was saying, shouldn't we be giving these women other information to help them make the right call?
Right.
Because, I mean, there's always adoption. You can adopt it out right away. You don't have to see the baby.
Right.
It just goes.
Right. Blind adoption.
You know, I mean, you've got raising the baby.
Yeah.
I mean, even if, like we talked about, even if it's not a good situation, you don't know what this baby is supposed to be. You just don't.
No.
I mean, it's within the God's right
Yeah.
to know why that kid is coming into the world.
Exactly. You know, it's like we just don't know. And they say that, you know, like, well, I was not in a good place financially, which apparently is the top-cited reason for this. Is
That doesn't shock me.
But it's like there are resources, and you just don't know. You might be inspired, and you might be rewarded by God for taking this small challenge, but instead now you're going to have 3 times the hardships because you decided to go a different route on your own.
Yes.
Like you know better than God.
I know.
You know, and it's like that they're not. It's just a lack of faith. There's a lack
And
of
there's
faith.
so much of it that's vain.
Yeah, body images, money issues.
It's like, well, you know, and they use that.
They do.
They look at the women and go, well, you know, we'll help you keep that good body before the baby ruins it.
Yeah, they said
So
that.
don't worry, that's why we'll take care of it.
They tried the whole financial thing with me, saying, well, you know, if you do it now, then you won't have to pay this extra $200 because next week you're gonna have to pay $200 more. But we can lock.
Healing ministry of Jesus Christ. They have honored and chosen Allred as their ambassador and representative for the healing ministry of Jesus Christ. And you can see Edward Allred listed again right here. They actually honored him on top of the Hispanic supporters. A press release from La Sierra said Allred remains active in the Adventist Church. La Sierra University is just one of many Adventist institutions that have benefited from his blood money, aka philanthropic giving. Many institutions, here are a few more.
Wow.
You can see here that Monterey Academy built a new library with donations from Allred, and at Glendale Academy they had a special grand opening and dedication for their Performing Arts Center, which was made possible by Edward Allred. Listen to this. The words thank you do not adequately express the deep appreciation owed to Allred. Thank you for investing in the lives of young people. They even pray, we gather this afternoon, Lord, to celebrate and dedicate to you the establishment of the Arts Center to be used in the education of our young people. We are thankful this day for Dr. Allred, who generously supported the dream, and for those who worked tirelessly on the construction. Remember, this is the same Dr. Allred who said, I love to work very hard. I almost feel guilty when I'm not working. If I'm away more than a day or two, I get nervous and worried, and I have to get back to work. This man...
That's because he's afraid to get shut down.
Yeah.
He is afraid that he will have to be stopped.
I think he's also compelled by demons and evil
Yes.
to just keep that sacrifice.
Well, of course,
going.
you have to, because obviously in his mind he thinks he's doing right.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe. I mean, he must. I don't know. He doesn't strike me as one of those ones that are compassionate that think, oh, you know, I'm helping women. I mean, I think he does have an agenda. We obviously see that he doesn't favor Latin Americans or black people, you know, so
Yeah.
African Americans, you know. Go ahead, you were gonna tell me.
No, I just saw he said something else. So, NGL, a lot of Christian denominations are pointless or did bad things.
Yeah.
And a lot of other religions do the same, if not more. That is very true.
It's true. I mean, it's
They do.
all across the board. It's just, you know, in general, greed is a sin. You know, it never leads to anything good. And
No.
it's like, doesn't matter if you're Christian or Buddhist, you know, there's a thing of karma, and you're supposed to detach yourself from material things.
Yes.
Because the more material or worldly you are,
The worse it can get.
the more you're detached from God, because that's just
Yes.
the deal.
I mean, greed is probably one of the worst sins.
It is. It just leads you to do
Yes.
mystic. Enough is never enough.
No, it's not.
And,
I mean, once you start drinking in the money, you know, drinking in the wine or whatever,
yeah, whatever the vice, and it's like
it's gonna suck you in more and more.
like addiction.
Yeah,
you know,
addiction alone has placed some crazy things on you.
It's just weird because it seems like, you know, like there is man's plan and then God's plan, and it seems like I was put there in His path. You know, I was working for Him. What are the odds that I would be put there in His clinic?
I know.
You know, so
Well,
that I could,
exactly.
so
I
I
mean,
could
we had
continue.
no-
Start talking about it now when
Yes.
we can make more sense of it.
Well,
You
exactly.
know, just billion-dollar industry. You know,
I know.
not women's health.
And I'm glad that you found out all this, because I'm glad that we can get this out there.
It's been almost 20 years.
Yeah, and that people can hear this.
Yeah.
I mean, because if we would have tried this right from the start when we first
Yeah.
had it happen, we wouldn't have gotten this out there the same way.
Yeah, I wouldn't have understood. I wouldn't have made those connections that, you know, this is not healthcare. This is not helping people. This is just, again, the health industry being greedy and taking more.
Yes.
You know? Yeah.
This Allred guy reminds me of Dr. Money. He was the first known guy to do gender reassignment surgery.
Yeah, exactly.
And he did evil things. Yes.
Exactly, same exact mentality.
Yeah.
And you know, Alfred was the nicest guy, the most mellow guy that you could imagine. You wouldn't think that he was a millionaire. He was super sweet, you know. He hold my hand with both hands, you know, and it was like, and he was just evil to the core.
If you would have known, you would have been washing your hands like no other every time he fucking touched you. Pardon my language.
Right. I know, and it was like, you know, because he would do that too, like a doctor, you know, when they turned to walk away and he put his hand on your back and kind of like, you know, just that type. And he was the most, you know, he's like evil. And that guy that he's talking about, Dr. Money, he's coming up with the whole gender transitioning thing.
Yes.
What he did was he had a set of twins born, and he raised them. I can't remember if he tried to raise them gender neutral or just swapped the genders. I can't remember, but it didn't work out with one of them. Actually, it started to go the other way, and because it was like a boy being raised as a girl, I believe.
Okay.
And it stopped working when they got to adolescence. He still started taking on boy characteristics. Oh my god, you know, and so his experiment was shot to shit. So
I think I remember seeing stuff about this.
Yeah, he was the first one to suggest like surgery and everything to curb that.
Yes.
And yeah, he's responsible for the whole gender ideology construct thing that we have today. But exact same mentality. You're just playing God, you know?
Both of you guys are good with your grammar and vocabulary. It's admirable. Thank you.
Thank you.
I learned from the best. Daughter of Otten here.
I just try to make sure that I talk slower than I'm thinking, because I can talk really, really fast and lose people. So I just try to keep it slow and mellow.
Yes.
But it's hard when you're talking about stuff like that.
Oh, I know. You get jacked up and everything else, and
Yep.
it can go either way. Alright, let's see more of this.
And feels guilty and worried if he is not murdering innocent children. I don't make this stuff up. It's right here, published here in the public newspaper. That's the proclaimed Adventist example and ambassador and inspiration. Adventist educators in charge of your children are thanking God for this murderer. But now it's going to get even worse. My Adventist church has a harsher stance against gambling than to abortion. Adventists have consistently opposed gambling as it is incompatible with Christian principles. It's not an appropriate form of entertainment or a legitimate means of what? Of raising funds. Edward Allred is the owner, president, and CEO of Los Alamitos, one of the finest horse racing venues in the country. Forbes magazine named Allred the biggest horse gambler. He took 50% ownership in 1990 and has since become the sole owner of Los Alamitos. The LA Times said Allred is the racetrack's biggest fan and its guardian angel. It's guardian angel. Interesting choice of language. Adventist leaders at Loma Linda and La Sierra might try to defend his donations because he wasn't involved in gambling until later in life. Forbes magazine noted that Allred skirted expulsion from where? Loma Linda Medical School after buying his first racehorse while still in school. He was gambling even before he began a career in murder. This right here is the official position of the Adventist Church on gambling, and it states right here in black and white that the Adventist Church rejects gambling as defined above and will not solicit nor accept funding that is clearly derived from gambling. Clearly. The definition of hypocrisy, the practice of claiming to have moral standards or beliefs to which one's own behavior does not conform. Dishonesty. But remember, this is the man who is supposed to be an inspiration, ambassador, and example forever to Adventist youth. Vomit. A few people have suggested that these are independent institutions, that these academies, hospitals, and universities are not connected to the actual church, or that the church itself would never, it would never be involved in this. Well, what can I say? Don't bet on it. Edward Allred is the owner, president, and CEO of Los Alamitos, one of the finest horse racing venues in the country, and the Adventist Church has put a Seventh-day Adventist church at his racetrack. Welcome to the Los Alamitos SDA Church. Go visit their website, get to the home screen, click on About Us, and then click on History, and right there you will read the Los Alamitos Adventist Group met for the first time in 2009. scene. There were 20 people in attendance. Doctor Who, Dr. Edward Allred provided the what? The facilities and funding to get started. And right there on their webpage is the smiling face of Dr. Allred. I called up and spoke with a church official at this church who told me that they are waiting for Dr. Allred to die so that they can get all of his money. Let me make something very clear. Edward Allred's money can burn in hell. The Adventist church does not need it, and we don't want it. That my Adventist denomination would build a church at this man's horse racing track was simply too hard to believe. So I actually went there myself. This right here, my friends, this is undeniable, physical. We literally have concrete evidence. This is concrete evidence that cannot be argued. No church leader can cover this up. This can't be swept under the rug. You can't put this in some secret file like the abortion file and hide it from everyone. This is physical, concrete.
So he showed the evidence on this, that gambling is not allowed with the Seventh Adventist Church.
Right.
And yet he built a church straight on his horse racing property.
Yep.
Gambling happens, and the church is running
And
the church.
And
They accept
the donations from this
the
church.
donation, yes.
And it's like, I don't really care what religion they are. I don't really care what people's religions they are. But if they say that they are that thing, then they better follow those rules.
This is the biggest blasphemy you can think of.
Yep.
Can I say something?
I mean, next to the other stuff that he does.
Hello, people of LongWalker's channel. This is why you don't chase horses. And also, is this reason why you don't chase horses?
This is why you don't act out of vengeance. He got
No.
angry and he got wrathful and he went after a horse and he fell.
My best friend
What?
saw it live, too.
What?
What?
Horse
Did a
fell
horse
out.
get out?
Yep.
It's out?
They're out. Both of them are out.
So I gotta go
Don't
fix
be
that.
wrathful.
Yeah.
I feel uncomfortable.
Alright, let's get this done so that I can go and deal with horses.
Real evidence that anyone can come and see. The name Adventist is here on a church built at a racetrack by one of the most famous horse gamblers in the entire North America. If you want to see that video, there is a link in the description box down below. And Governor Susana Martinez, she is the first Hispanic woman governor in the USA. Dr. Allred and his wife made contributions to her campaign, but Governor Martinez refused the money and sent it back to Allred and his wife because of his what? Because of his hate.
He just got married last month or this month.
Yeah, he did. We just saw that.
So what, is he already like, since this has been done, got a divorce and remarried?
When was this one done?
This was 4 years ago.
So yeah, obviously.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Full racist remarks. Not only did she refuse his money, but also the wife's money as well. Simply being associated with this man was enough to refuse the money, but Adventist institutions not only accepted the money, but boast about it and honor this man with plaques all over their institutions. This is scandalous. Also, both Attorney General Patricia Madrid and Ambassador to the UN, Bill Richardson, also refused his money and said that Allred's racist comments were really despicable. In January 2013, Attorney David Reed published an article here pointing out the hypocrisy of an Adventist university honoring this notorious abortionist. A few days later, this disgusting website here criticized Mr. Reed for assailing Dr. Allred. And look at it says right here, they even defended his successful business of targeting minorities and killing children. You will notice, though, that nobody put their name to this article. Do you know why? Maybe because Dr. Edward Allred was a principal sponsor of Adventist Today. Well, would you look at this right here? Allred is listed on the Adventist Today advisory board here and here and here and here. Anyone who donates enough money to Adventist Today will be listed on the masthead of the magazine. They don't want anyone pointing out Dr. Allred's horrific crimes against humanity because he was their sponsor. The hypocrisy here is off the charts. They honor a man who violently attacked, tortured, and murdered thousands of children. I wouldn't pay money to have my boogers put on their masthead. But that is hypocrisy today. What about Spectrum magazine? This waste of cyberspace publishes about women's rights, equality, and racism. But when La Sierra honors a notorious abortionist whose racist remarks have been denounced by multiple government leaders, Spectrum says nothing. You know why? Because Edward Allred has been a member of the Spectrum Advisory Council for over 20 years. In 1997, here, Allred was given a gold star next to his name. In 2001, he was given a diamond status, and by 2009, this bloody butcher was honored with lifetime recognition. According to a 2010 Tuskegee University research and a report by the Equal Justice Initiative, the KKK lynched an estimated 3,400 to 4,000 blacks, but Dr. Allred by himself, according to statistics, killed at least 87,500 black boys and girls. He killed 22 times more blacks than the KKK ever, and Spectrum magazine has heaped upon him every possible honor and given him lifetime recognition. So disgusting. On Sunday, March 18, 1979, Allred told the Fresno Bee newspaper, "I don't mean to toot my horn, but it's safe to say that I have far more experience than anyone else in the USA in doing this particular thing. Toot toot. I don't mean to toot my horn, but I've murdered more innocent children than anyone else." You see that? It's right there in black and white in the public newspaper. He boasts of being the most prolific serial killer ever. So by the numbers, Dr. Gosnell killed 16,000 and Dr. Allred 250,000. Let's see, 250 divided by 16, that's equal to more than 15 or 16 Gosnells. Can you imagine any Christian institution honoring Philadelphia's abortion monster as their example, inspiration, or ambassador? And yet, that is exactly what my Adventist church has done over and over again. We Adventists are well known because we seek to observe the fourth commandment by keeping the seventh-day Sabbath. My church says about the Sabbath right here that it is a delightful communion with God and one another. It is a symbol of our redemption, where in Christ, a sign of our what? Our sanctification, a token of our allegiance. Remember that word, our allegiance, and a foretaste of our eternal future in God's kingdom. This is important to know because Dr. Allred stated here that Saturday is the most popular day for women to get abortions. At his Avalon clinic, more than 100 are done on the Sabbath, and that was at just one of his many clinics.
Exactly.
The Bible says that the Lord hates the shedding of innocent blood. He hates it. We Adventists will go.
I mean, there's a reason, through the business that they don't want you to deal with the Sabbath.
Right. It was like, it's supposed to be a very holy thing for them, and yet they say there's not supposed to be any bloodshed or anything on those days, and he's very purposely doing just that, and gambling.
Yes.
Because, Saturday was always the biggest day,
I know.
and the most money that came in from wagers was Saturday night.
Exactly.
And it was like, it's all by design, I'm talking about like the Illuminati or the Masons or anything that's controlling, watching, and
Yeah.
it's like that they're all kind of like behind that,
Of course they are, because, the more that they can get people off of that, the better off they are.
To church, and we have the audacity to stand in God's church on God's holy day and to loudly sing praise the Lord. We are his commandment-keeping people, and we pat ourselves on the back that we are some really fine Christians and that Jesus is coming very soon to save all of us. All the while, we openly and unashamedly support what Jesus hates. Our pro-abortion position, our history of not only supporting child murder, but actually practicing it in our hospitals with the full approval of church leadership is an absolute abomination and disgrace. In the Adventist church, you can be disfellowshipped for smoking cigarettes or drinking a beer, but if you violently murder children, you are going to be celebrated and honored.
Yes,
we are the most disgusting hypocrites in all the world. There are simply, hands down, no competition. We are the greatest hypocrites. The reason that I'm making this video, the purpose of this video, is because it is necessary.
This is kind of unrelated, but it's like a side topic. Do you remember Matt Walsh's thing today? Talking about how they're trying to ban yoga on the beach. You
Yes.
can't even really gather in any kind of group without getting some sort of fine or ticket.
Yes.
Because you have to get a new license. Typical California.
Very much so.
Or you take a crap or anything here without having a freaking license for it.
I know.
So, but do you remember there's all these other crimes that are happening in the area? Those guys, those insurgent guys that came up on 2 different speedboats and like 14 different full-size, like 27-year-old fit dudes jump off and run
Insurgents,
in.
for sure.
And then you've got the homelessness issue out there.
Yeah.
And all this other violent crime that's been happening in the same area. But they're going to spend their time fighting innocent yoga-going people.
Yes, they are.
It's like, it's the same sort of thing. It's like they'll condemn people in this church of this guy's church, they'll condemn them, kick him out of the church for drinking beer.
Yeah.
But this sort of stuff is like celebrated because he's
But
giving
murder
him,
is celebrated.
yeah, 'cause he's giving him money.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like, I mean, talk about cultish sounding, you know? It's like, why are there even different denominations of Christianity to begin with? And why are they
There
so
shouldn't be.
radically different in their stances
Yeah.
and stuff? I don't know. Okay.
Because it's whatever they want. They feel.
Yeah, they've been to the pressure of society and getting money.
Yes.
You know, it's like, I agree. See, it's just greed.
This guy kills more babies than ghouls that I know about.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
To give a public apology to all of my Catholic friends watching this video, to all of my Baptist, Methodist, Lutheran, Pentecostal friends, to all of the Hindus, Buddhists, Muslims. As a member of the Seventh-day Church in good standing, I want to say that I am very sorry that our church has allowed this to happen and continues to allow it to happen. I am not only speaking for myself, but for many Adventists who are appalled and sickened by this absolutely disgusting behavior and false witness from the leaders of the Adventist Church and institutions. This is reprehensible. Both Christianity Today right here, the Christian Post, the Washington Post, and other news outlets have blasted the Adventist Church for our rank and shameful hypocrisy. There is no excuse whatsoever for church leadership in North America or at the GC World Headquarters. Multiple international newspapers have on multiple times over a period of at least 30 years, they have blasted and humiliated our church publicly. Nobody can make the claim that we knew nothing. And look, published right here in our very own Advent to our church institutions, Edward Allred. Do you notice the victim of a violent attempted murder, cerebral palsy for life, because of this terrible crime, she goes around the world cheerfully, unashamedly, joyfully speaking for the Sixth Commandment. Our church has never apologized to this woman, but the man who tried to murder her, the man who tried to kill her, the man who murdered, multiplied thousands of little children. Not only is this blood money accepted and celebrated, but this disciple of Satan is honored of all places in the world at the Adventist Church's GC in session. And right here, when I published my video showing the church at the racetrack, I reported their desire to get Allred's money when I said that, many people contacted me, complained, and they said that I was a liar. I'm violating the 9th commandment and saying things that simply aren't true. Well, look at this right here. I published that video in August 2017, and people said that I was a liar. Look right here. Just 4 months later, after I published my video, Orange County Register published an article right here stating Allred has no direct heirs and said he plans to leave at least half of his money to who? To Seventh-day Adventist education causes.
Wow.
Undeniable, irrefutable evidence right there in black and white. Over the years, many Adventists within the church have repeatedly complained, writing thousands of letters, emails, and making untold number of phone calls protesting this abomination. Unfortunately, the leaders of the Adventist Church, both in North America and at the GC in all of these years, have neither apologized for this appalling witness, nor have they taken any steps whatsoever to rectify this situation. Well-known evangelists and personalities in the church are well aware, they are very well aware of this, and they know that it's wrong, but they refuse to say anything and instead stand by and watch as the reputation of this church is dragged continually through this filth and slime. It is their job. Not only are they being paid to say something, but it is their moral obligation. It is their God-given duty to be faithful shepherds, to act like men and speak out against this horrific evil. And because they have continually refused to do so or say anything, then it is incumbent upon lay members like myself to set the...
Yes, because if you do not speak up, nobody will. Everybody's going to think that the next guy is going to speak up. That's why it is up to you as an individual. You think that that subject is worth it, to speak up and say your mind and say exactly what you need to, because the right person might hear it. And that's all it would take is one person. One person could change the world.
Just note to have discernment in your cause.
Yes.
And also to come with sources to back it up.
Yes, come with at least 3 to 4 sources.
I mean, a lot of people will go and they'll use just the Bible as their one and only source. And I'm like, that's one thing, that's good. But not everybody believes that.
Yeah, so you need to come with more.
So then it's like, okay, so then we'll go to a different standpoint. Like at this point, like you have a moral standpoint, you have a scientific standpoint, and if those three things intersect, you've got personal belief, you have morality,
Yes.
you have, okay, the law,
Yeah.
and, well, maybe not necessarily law, but, divine law. Okay, that's morality.
Yeah.
And then scientific evidence, if those three things intersect, then you definitely have something worth talking about,
You have your points.
Yeah. And this way it's like, we're not, this is from a Christian perspective. We have the same perspective. And I know that there's other religions that have the same perspective. It can be scientifically backed that you have physical problems from these situations.
Oh, yeah,
You
for
will
sure.
have long-lasting mental issues from these problems, from these things that arise.
Yes.
So you have that mix of science and faith and morality. It's a good subject.
Oh, yeah, to vary.
So, speak your mind and let it be known and spread what truth you can find.
Yes, truth is what will set you free.
And when it comes to the faith subject, it's best if you find 2 or 3 different faiths within that all say the same thing as well.
Exactly.
Just anything that you can bring more knowledge to people. In this case, women need to be more informed.
Oh,
It's like,
yes.
Know about the weeks in which they're developing and know about the long-term effects of your mental and physical health. I still get cysts
No.
from my procedures. It's like they need to be well informed, and if then they go and decide, the faith risks, the risks to your soul if you have any beliefs in that department, they need to be informed of all of those things before they make that decision. Then they can make that decision.
Yes.
You know.
And we live in a day and age where there's no reason to not be able to find sources.
Exactly. It's like you might have to dig a little bit to find ones that aren't
Yes.
so woked up, but they are there. You can dig deep.
Woke agenda.
Yeah.
Alright, let's finish this.
Record straight. So again, I am very sorry and I'm very embarrassed. Support for the murder of children, for the practice of murdering children in our own hospitals, and for the reprehensible act of honoring abortionists like Dr. Allred. But an apology is simply not enough. There must be some consequence for these crimes. And so I pray that as an act of mercy, that God would judge my church, give us the gift of pain, of heaven will in no way, shape, form, or degree sanction the deliberate murder of innocent children. The Bible says that the Lord hates the shedding of innocent blood, and as a necessity to preserve the name and reputation of the Adventist Church, I pray that God will punish those responsible and by whatever means necessary, however painful, lead us to thorough repentance.
Yes.
Dang. Those strong words.
No. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that is what I have for today's one, and I think it's trying to go to something else. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen.
We have to recap what, always end it with what the subject is that we talked about.
Yes.
So the subject was greed.
Greed, and then we talked about the racehorse.
I know, but we just bring it back around to like the definition of greed,
Okay.
So it's
Greed.
like, we talked about this stuff, we've seen it. Greed, the moral of the story is it always has a darker side. It always leads you to more. You end up hurting yourself, future generations, past generations, throwing yourself out of sync with nature, just following greed.
Yes.
And that's why it is a sin.
A very, and it's like I said at the beginning, I do believe it's one of the worst sins.
Yeah, wrath can bring you yourself. It can hurt other people too, but it's like more of a self-destructive thing. Greed is like you're stepping on everybody to get what you want, and it's like I feel that there's more people hurt by greed
Yes.
than wrath.
Yes.
I think the people are the worst ones.
Yes.
3 at least,
Thank you, Sancho, for joining us again.
Thank you.
Always nice having you here. Somebody else to talk to and to interact with.
Talking points, very good.
So, thank you, Wolf Boy, for...
Tomorrow's his birthday.
Yeah, tomorrow is Guru's birthday. He's gonna be 14.
Yep.
So, wish him a happy birthday on his channel. And, daughter of Auden, thank you so much, as always, for getting everything going for me.
It was a good Good discussion. I think I still talk.
Namaste, Central. Bye.
Have a good night.
Night night all.